Welcome to another episode of Macabre. This is my co-host here, calcium deficient Carl. She's going to be telling us a wonderful story here, very special story. So, go.
Wow, that was the rudest introduction yet to date. But
You can just tell by looking at somebody their calcium levels are low.
yeah, we'll see about that.
All right.
When I punch you, we'll see if you're anemic. See if you bruise easy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, anyway, thanks for the intro. I cannot throw a javelin, Jacob.
That's not true.
I was going to say I can't throw javelin like Mrs. Trunchbull, Jacob. But then I realized that Mrs. Trunchbull throws shot put.
True.
Which you also can't do.
Well, we've got the same build, so I think
you just
I
need
could
the ponytail.
Yeah.
Yeah, so welcome to Macabre Podcast, where we do true crime and spooky stories, and every week we kind of switch off who's telling the story. This week it's my turn, and I'm going to tell Jake a story I don't think he's ever heard before.
No, I have no idea. I've never even heard of this thing.
Yeah, and it was really huge.
Yeah.
I would like to introduce you all to a new series that I'm starting called My Besties and Murder Around the Globe, where I bring a story each week and I tell you about a place that someone that I'm friends with or someone I care about lives, and a true crime or a scary story that happened in their area. This first week we're going to be Why do you look so angry?
I don't mean to.
This week we're going to be covering Viva Las Vegas, but not actually Vegas, just the state of Nevada for my true homie, Alyssa. Also because my teenage son follows true crime and he has been begging me to cover this case particularly.
Yeah.
Since we started.
It's going to be a good one, I hope.
Yeah.
I've been disappointed before, though.
This, my Maccabees, is the story of the infamous Harvey Casino Bombing.
Hey, Harvey, like your dog.
Yes.
She has a wonderful Great Dane named Harvey, like Harvey Dent, because its face is melted off. No.
Yeah, actually, when we got him and he was a puppy, his face was split in half, black and gray, and they called him Two-Face. That's how they identified him as a puppy. And then we didn't even put that together, and we called him Harvey. Two-Face and Harvey are the same thing.
Yes.
So, this bombing took place on August 26th and 27th of 1980. Planted in plain sight by men disguised to deliver a photocopier. A bomb containing over 1,000 pounds of dynamite was placed on the second floor of the Harvey Casino and left there in State Line, Nevada.
Wow.
Attempts were made to disarm the bomb, but it would become an unforgettable incident to the area and the history of this hotel. The cost of damage to the property was $18 million. John Burgess Sr. was convicted of having made the bomb. His goal was to extort money from the casino, which he had long been a patron of after losing $750,000 gambling there.
Jeez.
What a chump.
Yeah. Some people are just losers, I guess.
Yeah. He died in 1996 at the age of 74 while he was incarcerated. And I'm going to tell you about his crazy life. Because this man was not just an extortionist. He was not just... Well, I don't know where I was going with that. But this dude leads such a crazy life.
Well, it sounds like he was bad at gambling.
Yeah.
For show.
Mm-hmm.
So,
he was a Hungarian immigrant that moved to Clovis, California after World War II. He said he flew for the German army, during which time he gave intelligence to the United States. He was then captured and sentenced to 25 years by the Soviet Gulag for hard labor in their prison.
Wow. So he was in the Luftwaffe.
Yeah.
That's the German
I'm
Air
picturing
Force.
him like,
And
John Valjean.
so what, he he like turned on the Germans and got in trouble, something like that.
Yeah.
Or I don't.
I'm
Or no, he was
I have a
captured
I
by
will,
the Soviets.
yeah. Actually, I'm going to give you a whole background on that because it is very interesting all the stuff he did.
Okay.
8 years into his sentencing, he was let free in part of mass repatriation of prisoners of war, held in their own home countries and returned back to Hungary. He immigrated to the U.S. and built himself up from his bootstraps, starting with a landscaping business to pay his bills and support his family. And he was a really good entrepreneur, so he actually was really successful in his company. But debt would start to pool around his perfect life with his gambling addiction, and it would turn out to be his downfall.
Wow.
Shocker, right?
What's a turd?
Did you read what I
just
wrote?
read a little bit of your script.
I'm not
excited for you to read that.
Well, I guess I have to say it now. I wasn't gonna say this because I thought it was stupid, but
I like it.
I said his gambling addiction would turn out to be his downfall, and the reason is because he's a cocky idiot. And we love cocky criminals because they always mess up.
Yeah.
And we always catch them, and the best criminal is a caught criminal.
Because then we know what they did, how they did it.
That they're not out criminaling.
Mm-hmm.
A note was left on the bomb that said, "Stern warning to the management and bomb squad. Do not move or tilt this bomb because the mechanism controlling the detonators in it will set off at a movement of less than 0.01 on the Richter scale."
Wow.
Which, most people know this, but some don't. The Richter scale measures movement in the ground, which we measure earthquakes with. So being right on the state line of Nevada and California, where the most earthquakes happen, the craziest thing this dude could have done is made a bomb that would go off at the slightest 0.01 movement on a open-end Richter scale.
Like,
what
so
were
like
you
just sneeze
thinking?
around it and it'll blow up.
Yeah, they're like, oh, if you step on the linoleum next to it and it...
Wow. Not cool.
Not cool. So, yeah, California has tremors, like mini tremors all the time that aren't even earthquakes. So I can't even imagine this being something I'd want to be around.
No.
When investigated by professionals, they did in fact have over 1,000 pounds of dynamite, and it seemed like it was truly undefeatable in the creation.
1,000 pounds. That's huge.
Huge. And I'm going to have...
How did he get that in there?
Oh, we'll see. I can't spoil it yet.
All right.
You're asking good questions, though.
Mm-hmm. 'Cause he was like an old man at the time, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
The maker,
Must be
who
strong.
we now know obviously as 59-year-old John Bridges Sr., wanted $3 million in cash in return for this supplying direction to disconnect two of the bomb's three automatic timers, not so that they could keep it from detonating.
Keep it going.
Never enough.
Yeah.
Not so that they could stop the detonation, but so that they could temporarily move it and it could detonate somewhere else that wasn't in the building. So once this thing started ticking, the only option was for it to blow.
Crazy.
Yeah. What a jerk
Yeah.
for making that. So he wanted the money in exchange for the directions so that they could move it. The device's two steel boxes stacked one on top of the other contained the dynamite. Inside the resort, Burgess made sure the bomb was exactly level, then armed it using triggering mechanisms and left it there.
Interesting.
We had never seen anything quite like it, said retired Special Agent Chris Ronay, an explosive examiner who was called to the scene along with other experts. After being discovered, the bomb was photographed, and it was used for decades later for FBI studies when they taught like bomb classes and demonstrations as one of the most intricate bombs the U.S. has ever seen.
Wow. So I guess that's that, German engineering.
He's Hungarian.
Hungarian engineering.
That Hungary.
Yeah.
Hungary.
Wow. So it actually became a teachable moment. This bomb being, he made such a crazy, strange bomb that
Yeah.
the FBI was like, we can learn something from this.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I actually went onto the FBI archives for you guys, and I found the entire extortion note that they left with the bomb. So I'm going to read that for you so you can hear like the crazy demands that were being made. And so this is next to the bomb on the floor in the envelope.
So there's 1,000 pounds of dynamite and
Just a little envelope on the ground.
an envelope.
An envelope.
Okay.
Envelope.
Just in this casino.
Yep.
Wow.
It read, this is in its entirety all the things that they said and asked for. And this is what it read. To the management. Stern warning to the management and bomb squad. Do not move or tilt this bomb because the mechanisms controlling the detonators in it will set off at a movement of less than 0.01 on the open end Richter scale. We already knew that.
True.
Do not try to flood or gas the bomb. There is a float switch and an atmospheric pressure set at 26.00-33 or 26 to 33. Both are attached to detonators. Do not try to take it apart. The flathead screws are also attached to triggers, and as much as 1/4 inch to 3/4 inches of a turn will cause an explosion. In other words, this bomb is so sensitive that the slightest movement, either inside or outside, will cause an explosion.
That's nuts.
I know. This bomb can never be dismantled or disarmed without causing an explosion, not even by the creator. Only by proper instruction can it be moved to a safe place where it can be deliberately exploded or where the third automatic timer can be allowed to detonate.
And if only he would have taken some of his bomb making genius and like learned how to play blackjack better instead, he maybe would have found more success.
I guess he can build, but he can't count. Cards. Counting cards.
So.
It's something stuck in my throat.
You need some kombucha?
No.
Okay. We'll keep going. I might take some booch.
Only if you comply with the instructions in this letter will you be given instructions on how to disconnect the first 2 automatic timers and how to move the bomb to a place where it can be exploded safely.
Whoa.
Pow, right in the kissa.
Yeah, that was some powerful boochie.
Warning, I repeat, do not try to move, disarm, or enter this bomb. It will explode. If exploded, this bomb contains enough TNT to severely damage Harrah's across the street. This should give you some idea of the amount of TNT contained within this box. It is full of TNT. It is our advice to cordon off a minimum of 1,200 feet radius.
Wow. So he's saying, like, I'm going to blow up the freaking
He's
city
saying
block.
move everyone,
Yeah.
not the bomb. He's like, I don't want to hurt people. What if somebody... We'll get into this in a little bit. Let me read the letter, and then we'll discuss.
Yeah.
It is our advice to cordon off a minimum of 1,200 feet radius and remove all people from that area. Demands. We demand $3 million in used $100 bills. They must be unmarked, unbugged, and chemically untreated. If we find anything wrong with the money, we will stop all instructions from moving the bomb. Instructions for delivery. The money is to be delivered by a helicopter. The helicopter pilot is to park at 2300 hours as close as possible to the LTA building by the light at the Lake Tahoe airport. It is to face east. The pilot has to be alone and unarmed. The pilot is to get out, stand by the chain link fence gate. He is to wait for further instructions, which will be delivered by a taxi that will be hired. The driver will know nothing. They may also be delivered by a private individual or through the nearby public phone at exactly 10 hours. Is that 1 a.m.?
What?
0010.
That's 10 minutes after midnight.
Okay. At 10 minutes after midnight, the pilot will receive instructions about where to do and what to do. That's what it actually says.
Damn, he is very precise. I guess you'd have to be to construct a bomb the way
Of
that
this
he
caliber.
did. Yeah.
Yeah. Before the pilot enters the helicopter, he has to take a strong flashlight and shine it around inside the helicopter so that it lights up the entire inside. We must be able to see it from a distance with binoculars. We want to be able to see everything that's inside so that we can be sure no one's hiding and that there's no contraband inside.
So he keeps saying we,
So he's not alone.
so he's not alone. Mm-hmm. What up with that?
I just did the weirdest wink thing. Okay, conditions of the business transaction. Like, this is a business transaction, not a major extortion. These conditions must be followed to the letter. Any deviation from these conditions will leave your casino in shambles. Also remember that a very small earthquake will detonate the bomb, so don't try to delay the delivery of the money. 1. All news media, local or nationwide, will be kept ignorant of the transaction between us and the casino management until the bomb is removed from the building. Fat chance. 2. The helicopter will be manned only by the pilot. He must be unarmed, unbugged. We do not want any misunderstanding which might cause us to have to take their lives. 3. Fill the helicopter up.
To take our lives?
To take lives.
Oh, to take lives.
Of theirs.
Gotcha.
Unnecessarily taking the lives. 3. Fill the helicopter up completely with gas. And 4. The helicopter pilot, after he receives the first instructions, cannot communicate with anyone except for the necessary instructions given and taken by the tower. All channels from 11.3 to 17 will be monitored.
Wow.
How can you monitor all of those at the same time?
I don't know. I'm not a radio genius like that. But I guess he could.
Yeah. The designer of this bomb will not participate in the exchange, so it will be completely useless to apprehend any person making the exchange because they will not know how it works. They perform their duty for reward. And again, if you don't want to be stuck with 1,000 pounds of TNT, do not allow any investigations by local agencies, FBI, or investigative agency action before the bomb is removed. If the instructions are violated in any way by authority, the secret of the handling of the bomb will definitely not be revealed. It's really tiny text.
You know, this really makes me want to watch the movie Speed.
Ooh.
Pop quiz hot shot.
I love that movie.
That's a great movie. Keep going.
That movie
Sorry.
makes me really miss Keanu Reeves, even though he's alive.
I was going to say, where'd he go?
I just haven't watched a movie with Keanu Reeves in a while.
John Wick? Any of those pictures?
I did watch those, yeah.
Anyways, great
This is gonna
films.
make a lot of noise. This is so annoying.
Could you please continue? What's happening?
I'm gonna cut that little bit because my cord was like fucking up.
Okay.
Okay. The pilot will receive the first set of instructions. He can carry it back with him. If the money is sold to the buyer without complications, you may receive the remaining 5 sets of instructions, one by one, via the Kingsbury post office by general delivery, or you may receive them all at once. Just trust in the U.S. mail.
Yeah.
The extent of your cooperation will make the difference. If you cooperate fully, it will ensure a speedy exchange. We don't want to burden your business opportunities or cause more loss of money than necessary. By the way, he thinks he's talking to Harvey Casino Management, not police.
I see. So, gotcha.
Attention, there will be no extension or renegotiation. Demands are firm regardless. The transaction has to take place within 24 hours. If you do not comply, we will contact you again, and we will not answer any attempts to contact us. In the event of a double cross, there will be another time sometime in the future when another attempt will be made. We have the way and the means to get another bomb in.
So
Jerks.
he's just like, and if it doesn't work, I can build more bombs. I can get them in there. I'm going to bomb it.
There you go. To the pilot. The helicopter has to be filled up with gas. Do not come armed with any weapons. Do not bring a shotgun rider. All radio channels will be monitored. You have to have no communication with anyone after you reach the airport. Do not try to be a hero. Arlington is full of them, and they can't even smell the flowers.
Dang, that's cold. Holy crap.
Follow the orders strictly. You will make 5 stops, none of which will be at an airfield. You will have ample lighting for landing. All sites are fairly level. One has about a 2-degree pitch. There will be a clearance of more than 200 feet radius. We don't want any trouble, but we won't run away if you bring it. Happy landing.
Wow. I'm just still blown away. That was like the hardest line ever. Like, don't be a hero. Arlington's full of them, and they can't even smell the flowers.
Yeah, right? What a villain arc.
Yeah, he
like,
was
what
so...
a villain.
like just cut and dry and precise with the entire letter, and then he just drops like that banger of a villain line.
Yeah, casual. Happy landing.
Happy landing. Jeez.
That's a picture of the bomb, by the way.
Okay.
And those are the switches.
So it's basically just a big steel box.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, so that's the extortion note.
Right.
Sorry.
So thorough.
Yeah.
I'm amazed that he sucked so bad at gambling. You would think he would use his genius to win things, but I guess he just sucked.
Well, he was up for a while. So this is obviously one of the biggest bomb threats the country's ever seen. According to experts, the dynamite was stolen from a construction site in Fresno, California. Because you're probably wondering, how does one man get so much TNT?
Yeah. I was.
I wasn't. No, I'm kidding. Actually, I literally didn't think that.
I know.
In my head, I was like, he made it. The feds had 0 patience for the money drop arrangements and knew that the extortion point was a weak spot in the attempt for payout. By midnight, they had the helicopter loaded up and ready for transport. FBI Special Agent Del Rowley, a slim 5'9", was in the cargo space behind the 2 front seats, which was a super tight fit. Because you got to think how small helicopters already are.
Right.
He wore a helmet, Kevlar vest, and his black fatigues and his weapon, which made it even more uncomfortable for travel. Per the instructions, the pilot was supposed to be flying solo, so he had to stay hidden where he was. Plus, the co-pilot seat was filled with 3 canvas money bags full of the fake money.
Fake money?
Fake money. They made out of cut and bound bundles of newsprint. They had carefully calculated how much $3 million in cash would weigh.
Wow.
And then they made fake bills, $100 bills in newsprint, and put that amount in. So it was as realistic as possible. And they added $1,000 of real cash. Like, he'll never get it.
In case he opens it up. Like, looks real to me. There's
Green is
$1,000
green.
in 100s.
Yeah.
It's just 10 bills. So
Yeah.
just a little stack.
Yeah. Time was ticking down, literally, as the helicopter crept its way up the mountain off Highway 50, following the grandiose turns and idiosyncratic language detailing the complex instructions from the ransom drop. A helicopter, a lone pilot, a flight path up the mountain, and a signal on the ground with a strobe light, a clear landing zone, and $3 million in cash. It's not like he was asking for the world.
Yeah.
Just a few things. Jesus Christ. No weapons and nobody else in cargo, and the note from the letter even ending happy landing on it.
Well, I mean, he wants them to land happily.
He's like, I'm a simple man.
Yeah.
I just want $3 million. How hard is that?
Just just a cool 3 mil. That's all.
Yeah. Up in the clear night sky, the helicopter thundered over the dense and dark forest heading west, rising up the mountainside to their destination under the full moon. Unknown to the perpetrators, high up in the sky above the helicopter, high enough for the wind to carry away the whirring beat of its rotors until it was too late, was the Huey, carrying a 6-man SWAT team. Rowley was outfitted with an MP5 machine gun with a silencer, and in his mind, he had an amazingly simple plan. As the skids of the Bell Ranger copter touched down on Earth on the mountainside at their destination, he would douse the lights, kick the door open, and roll unseen to the ground. He would head for cover in the trees, turn on his night vision goggles, and lay in wait for finding the extortionists, basically. Then, if it was necessary, he would open fire and eliminate the targets.
Wow.
Pew, pew, pew.
So he's just hoping to like sneak out of the helicopter?
Yeah, and I just feel like I don't know a lot about helicopters, but
I feel like you're going to see him.
I feel like you're going to see him as well.
This guy is probably going to see your little sneaky rider.
This dude's a bad mamma jamma, though. That FBI dude, he's got a pretty cool track record. He's pretty intense.
Okay.
6 months earlier from the night of this extortion drop, John Bridges Jr., a.k.a. Johnny, the eldest son of John Burgess. Oh, Burgess, not Bridges, sorry. The eldest son of John Burgess Sr. was into fast cars, beer, women, and smoking weed. Johnny dropped out of high school.
Tight.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Johnny,
sounds like a cool dude.
He dropped out of high school and moved away at 16 just to get away from his father that he detested.
So, his dad is the bomber? Okay.
Yeah.
So you're talking about his son?
Yeah, John Burgess Sr. is the bomber. This is John Burgess Jr., a.k.a. I'm going to call him Johnny so it doesn't get confusing.
Okay. And Johnny's the cool guy.
He's a cool guy.
He likes chicks, weed.
Yeah.
Hot rods.
He smoked weed every waking moment of the day and was the embodiment of California style. Long, blonde, flowing hair to his shoulders, green eyes, tan skin from his roofing job. He drove a big white truck that always had a surfboard in it. You know the guy. I'm picturing Johnny Depp on Blow. Like when he had his long blonde hair and he was on the Cali beach.
Sure.
If you've ever seen that.
I was thinking more like McConaughey.
Oh, yeah.
Back in the day.
One day, after smoking his morning bowl, there was a knock at the door. Then another. Then another. Johnny answered the door to face his younger brother, who had just turned 18, Jimmy Burgess.
Okay.
What a surprise on his doorstep this truly was, because Johnny and Jimmy did not like each other. They couldn't have been more opposite. Jimmy was taller and thinner than Johnny and academically more successful, because remember, Johnny dropped out at 16 and moved away. And smoked weed, did
just a total
women.
bum.
I mean, did
Beach
drugs.
bum. Yeah.
Whatever. Jimmy was taller and thinner. Jimmy even graduated from high school for the Gifted Children program, so he was like really smart.
He could read minds.
Yeah, he can move things.
Wow.
He had long dark hair parted neatly down the middle and wore button-up shirts and topsiders. Classy.
Yeah.
And they had barely seen each other in 3 years. But yet, 6 months before the bombing incident on this day, Johnny finds Jimmy on his doorstep.
Okay.
Johnny and Jimmy. Can you imagine being the parents? Be like, Johnny, Jimmy. Like, always getting the names wrong.
Johnny Jr. So, what's this got to do with the? I'm assuming this has something to do with the bombing.
Oh, it does.
Okay. Yeah.
Johnny asked his brother, like, what do you need? Why are you at my door? trying to smoke a bowl, eat a bowl of cereal, watch morning cartoons. And Jimmy said, Big John sent me to tell you he needs your help. Now,
Big
the boys...
John, the bomb boy.
Yeah, the boys don't like their dad, and we'll get into that.
Okay.
The only thing these boys did have in common was their sheer terror of their father.
Oh, so they were frightened of him.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
Yeah. They didn't call him Dad. They called him Big John like everyone else.
The Hungarian bomb maker.
This cantankerous Hungarian, whom they and everyone else called Big John, although hate seethed in their body. I'm going to read you that.
Stroking out?
I'm always stroking out.
Yeah.
Although hate seethed in their bodies, they still sought out and yearned for their father's approval. Johnny let Jimmy into his apartment, and they began to discuss what Big John wanted him to know. Big John was planning to extort the Harvey Casino, and he needed to do it by building a bomb. The boys had a good laugh about it and wrote it off as like another one of their dad's crazy schemes. Their dad conjured up a lot of crazy schemes, but this one they hoped would never come to fruition.
Yeah, I would hope so. That they would hope that. You're like,
I hope
he's
they'd
not
hope.
actually going to become a domestic terrorist.
Dad.
Dad.
Daddy, no.
Yeah.
So, Jano Burgess, or John Burgess Sr. So now I'm going to tell about their dad and why they're scared of him, how he came to this thought.
Little backstory on
So,
Bomb Man. Big John.
He came to America in May of 1957, a penniless 35-year-old political refugee. He was the only child of land-owning and farming families. Considered to be upper middle class in Hungary.
Okay.
His father was a ferocious drinker and hated having him around. He sent him to live with his grandparents at only the age of 3 years old, and they kept him and took care of him until he was 15, and then he ran away.
Gotcha.
The stories he told his son about his life were really hard to verify for truth. He was super secretive about everything in his life, so his sons never really asked much questions.
Typical kind of tight-lipped, never talking about personal stuff kind of parent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
John's mantra was knowledge is power, so the more that they know about you, the weaker you are. He told his sons that when he ran away at 15, he was taken in by a butcher in his family, and the butcher made him into an apprentice, and soon after, he was running the shop.
Very nice.
Lucrative.
Yet another butcher.
We have a lot of ties, like every story.
Yeah.
Like
it's
bounces.
almost like being a butcher does something to your brain or something. I don't know.
Well, this guy
Not all butchers, obviously, guys.
This guy is not a criminal in that way at all.
Gotcha.
Then in 1941, Hungary entered World War II on the German side and sent troops to invade Russia. That was the year he joined the military.
Okay.
When he graduated the Royal Hungarian Army Air Force as a pilot, the war had turned and Nazis occupied Hungary and the Red Army was approaching its eastern borders. Janos, or Big John, was put at the controls of an Me-109 fighter plane and sent to fight the Russians. He told his son that he shot down 13 Allied planes before being hit over Italy and captured by Allied troops. U.S. records show that in 1945, just a month after the Soviets took over the capital in Hungary, that he was arrested in Austria. So his story kind of doesn't line up.
Gotcha.
He was charged with disobeying orders and escaped capture. He was then arrested again in 1946 by Hungarian military, but then he was released again without being charged. After this incident, his hometown in Hungary and the entire country was under complete control of the Soviet Union. Which is why he claims he began secretly working with the U.S. military intelligence.
Sure.
Well, decades after this, records will show that there was never a mention of a Janos Burgess working for the U.S. intelligence.
So not only was he a Nazi, But he was also a liar.
but also as well as a liar.
Yeah. And if the only thing worse than a Nazi is a dishonest Nazi, if you ask me.
Okay.
Just in my life experience.
You have a lot of life experience with Nazis.
I don't know that I've ever met one.
Okay. In 1948, he was arrested again by the Soviet secret police and charged with espionage.
Mm-hmm.
The trial lasted 7 minutes, and he was sentenced to 25 years of hard labor. And this is when he served his time at the Gulag in Siberia.
Wow. 7 minutes.
Siberia sounds terrible.
Yeah.
He's
Not good stories coming from the gulags in Siberia.
dude, this guy, I mean, so far, he's not a criminal. Like, he hasn't really done anything.
Yeah.
Like, he's not murdering.
Okay.
Which our typical case people are pretty messed up by this point of the story.
Mm-hmm.
He spent 8 years there cutting trees for railroad ties before he was released.
Wow.
That's gonna make him a tank.
Yeah, it's probably
Like, I bet he could just throw
Big John,
things.
you know.
I bet he could do push-ups.
Yeah.
A lot. After release, he left and he met the love of his life, Elizabeth Neal.
Mm.
I always feel weird, Elizabeth instead of Elizabeth.
Oh, yeah. No H.
Yeah. Big John was working as a waiter, and she came into the restaurant he was working at and asked her to dance. Within a year, the Soviet Union was suppressing the revolution in Budapest, and Big John and Elizabeth found themselves to be one of the 200,000 refugees that fled.
Wow.
And I want to say, I believe about 20,000 Hungarians died, and they slipped out and lived.
Good for them getting out of there.
To this point, it's like he's had a really rough life.
Yeah.
Like, he just joined the military and became, a prisoner of war type of thing. It's just, that sucks.
So he's not so far like a serial killer like we typically cover,
Yeah.
Is just
this
trying
is
to...
an out of the ordinary case, specifically because my son insisted we do it.
What does your son... Why is he so fascinated by a bomb maker?
I think it's because it has the same name as our dog.
I hope that's it.
As soon as the uprising began, Big John joined in, using a jackhammer to help his friend escape capture in prison.
Wow, that's awesome.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
He's so cool. And I think a lot of the stuff he does, I'm like, that's awesome. Until he isn't.
Big John, the jackhammer. The Hungarian jackhammer.
Yeah. He was then... so he was arrested by the Soviets when he crossed the border.
Okay.
So he was then released and given a passport for him and his wife from a sympathetic Soviet officer. Him and Elizabeth escaped to Austria, where he worked as an interpreter, and shortly after he was granted political asylum in the U.S.
Did you ever watch Swamp People?
Yeah.
You remember that one guy who was like, shoot him, Elizabeth.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking of.
That's that. There's no H on that.
That show is awesome.
I love Swamp People.
Yeah. Why couldn't we have been raised down there? I don't know.
We could. I feel like we've got swamp blood in us.
We couldn't have been raised there. We're adults. But we could live there now.
Okay. I just want to go have a friend gator. When I was in Jacksonville in the Navy, I had a gator friend that I would go and... You're not supposed to feed them, but I would go and get them like rotisserie chickens and throw them to him.
Yeah, the signs say no molesting the gators, Jacob.
I did not do that. I just fed it.
Molesting means mess with or touch.
Okay.
Okay.
Just don't bring that...
Don't say that. Is when he started going by John and she began going by Elizabeth. So it went from Janos and Elizabeth to John and Elizabeth.
Trying to blend in a little bit.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
They landed in New Jersey and they made their way to California when he started work on a farm. John doing carpentry, and his wife worked in the packing house. It was here in California that they had their sons Johnny in 1960 and Jimmy in 1962. 2 years after Jimmy's birth, John put $500 into his own business startup for landscaping, where he worked nonstop building his empire.
So
I did that.
I was just gonna say, like, so far it's like the American dream,
Yeah.
you know?
He worked all the time, didn't take vacations, and he even with all his money, he only shopped at like Salvation Army. He like wouldn't spend money on anything. He just saved, and built his business.
Gotcha.
He was 5'11" and super fit and powerful with a really imposing presence. Other men were really frightened of him and intimidated.
Well, much like how you can tell when someone has a calcium deficiency.
It's not me.
Look at your eyeballs. Deficient. No, I think you could also tell that somebody spent 7 years in a Siberian gulag. Like, that has got to make you hard.
That dude can throw a railroad tie 50 feet with one arm.
Like, I kind of admire him.
Well, one time he put 2 men down at the same time that tried challenging him.
Wow.
Like, easy.
That's that axe swinging muscle. Spam, you know?
It's like our great-grandpa.
Yeah.
Grandpa Bashang. He was just tough.
Yeah.
I remember thinking, like dang. It's like old muscle.
Yep.
That's muscle from doing hard labor since you were 12 or 10 years old.
Yeah. Since you're just a wee lad.
It's different than like weightlifters now who have muscle. Like, it's not even the same type of strength.
Yeah, that old man wire strength.
He could be nice and charming sometimes, but usually he had a cruel sense of humor and was really a difficult father to grow up with. By 1972, Big John was a millionaire with 3 separate businesses, 26 employees, and a really lucrative contract with California municipalities and golf courses. He owned multiple luxury vehicles, but got too many speeding tickets and got his license taken away. So he bought a small Beechcraft plane he used to literally just fly from his house to his job sites. And
so far, this dude sounds awesome.
yeah.
Like, I'd be like, no, Big John, that's a bad dude. That's cool.
Oh, Big John's pulling up.
Pulling his...
Because he was a pilot.
Stunts. Yeah.
In the...
He's barrel rolling around up there.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
But he would pull terrifying stunts, sometimes with his young sons on board, and was always really reckless and wild because he liked to scare people.
As we see later on with the bomb.
So, yeah. Elizabeth would handle all of their business accounts and money, and she had her own restaurant. So she was even living her American dream.
Yeah, good for her.
Big John was always known to be a tinkerer. Oh, shit. And an inventor. He would attempt to make things to make life more easy and like efficient. Like he made a meatball making machine for his wife's restaurant that never seemed to work right. And an electric irrigation timer and an automatic ditch digger for putting pipes in more quickly. He was almost going to have the patent for it, but he was beaten to it by other inventors. However, money didn't make Big John and Elizabeth happy, though, and they often fought and drank. He was always accusing Elizabeth of having affairs. He claimed she was a nymphomaniac that used her restaurant as a secret way to have sexual encounters.
Bummer.
Yeah, she would disappear for days at a time, and he'd have to go find her and bring her back. One time they had such an intense argument that she actually fell to the ground in the kitchen and had a seizure right in front of him. The ambulance that picked her up said she had a complete nervous breakdown.
Jeez.
'Cause Although, so far he seems very cool, he's about to be really not cool.
Yeah.
The boys, Johnny and Jimmy,
Mm-hmm.
grew up with great, like, trappings of their life. Comfortable, home, big, nice clothes.
Dad's a millionaire,
Yeah. They had things like motorbikes, go-karts, and three-wheelers with balloon tires. Sounds like a blast.
Yeah.
Elizabeth liked to dress them identically as twins with really nice clothes, and then they would only get haircuts once a year when Big John would shave their heads bald at the beginning of summer, making their heads blister while they were made to dig ditches in the searing California Valley heat.
That's strange.
Yeah, that he would shave their heads and make them go out and
just get really sunburnt.
Yeah. Big John also beat the boys relentlessly with belts,
cool.
electric cables, boots, coat hangers, and his fists. At night, he would come into their room and he would just wail on Johnny while Jimmy lay there motionless. When Jimmy was only 6, his father caught him with his elbow on the table at dinner and punched out 4 of his teeth to teach him better manners.
Well, it sounds like it was at least baby teeth. It's considerate if you're going to knock somebody's teeth out, No, that's horrible.
I was like, you better change your stance on that right now.
No, I obviously
Do you have dental? In case you lose some teeth today?
No. If I lose them, they're lost.
Down your throat,
Mm-hmm.
where I'll punch him.
Obviously, I'm not defending the guy.
Okay. At 12 years old, Johnny began drinking beer and smoked pot regularly by the time he was 14. Johnny then started tormenting his younger brother, which made Jimmy go tattletale to Big John. And then Big John would beat Johnny more. And then he'd turn around and beat Jimmy for tattletaling.
So there's just nothing good coming from this. You can't do anything right.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
And I do want to say that this is going to be a 2-part episode. So I'm going to tell a little bit more. And then the next part of the episode will be our part 2.
Okay.
Yeah. I think I'm going to record a part to add at the beginning saying, like, this is a 2-part episode so they know at the beginning.
In Macabre's very first 2-part episode.
Yeah, because we're at 47 minutes right now and I haven't even gotten to building the bomb. And I thought it would be a 2-part episode.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I'll like kind of wrap up the history and then it'll be like part 2, building the bomb.
Okay.
Or something. Anyway. Elizabeth would eventually file for divorce in 1973 and moved into a trailer in the back of the house so she could stay close to the boys. By July 1975, Elizabeth vanished, leaving her car parked outside of the kitchen door, keys still in the ignition, and her purse and pocketbook in the passenger seat.
What the heck?
And she was gone. Big John claims he didn't seem to notice the disappearance at all. Lie. 3 days later, her body was found in a field behind the house. Autopsies show a lethal amount of alcohol and Valium in her bloodstream, and she had choked on her own vomit. The coroner ruled it a suicide, but her sons were not convinced. Her stomach was full of whiskey, and their mother only drank vodka.
Yikes.
And they never found the bottle, which should have been right close by if she was out in the field getting plastered. The bottle should have been in arm's reach, probably.
Suspicious.
Yeah. So where I was going to say this is the only Macabre episode we'll ever have without a death. Boom. There it is.
There actually is a death.
And everyone thinks Big John did it.
Mm-hmm.
Shortly after her death, Big John started walking around the house, cutting her face out of family pictures and removing anything of hers from the house.
Psycho.
That's not a mourning husband. Or a mourning ex-husband. He took her ashes and dumped them out on the lawn while his sons were forced to watch and then smashed her urn.
Jeez.
This is what This is when he started spending money really recklessly. Extravagant clothes when he used to only dress in the Soviet... I wrote Soviet Army.
Salvation Army.
When he only would dress in clothes from the Salvation Army or thrift stores, now he was wearing tailored suits, turtlenecks, probably what are those little hankies?
Pocket squares.
Pocket squares.
Maybe an ascot.
Definitely an ascot in
This
this
was
time
the
period.
70s.
Yeah,
Right.
it was the 70s. And he
Looking
began...
like Fred
yeah.
from Scooby-Doo.
Except this dude, I feel like, is probably more of a rough looking one.
Looking more like...
I'm picturing a really handsome, like, suave, like, muscly gangster dude.
I wanna look this guy up.
Oh, I have pictures and videos and everything.
Okay.
So, he began gambling more and more. His favorite spot to go to was the Harvey's Wagon Wheel in State Line, Nevada. The Wagon Wheel Saloon and Gambling Hall was opened in 1944 by Harvey Gross and his wife Llewellyn. At its beginnings, it was only just a single room with 3 slot machines, 2 blackjack tables, and a 6-stool lunch counter. And right outside was the only 24-hour gas pump for 60 miles on the border of Nevada and California. California, like South Lake Tahoe area.
Okay.
The business chugged along until 1950 when it started attracting a wealthier, like more fashionable crowd. Yeah. By 1963, Gross had redeveloped his casino into the first modern high-rise hotel casino on South Shore. A concrete monolith with 11 stories, 197 rooms, and his name on the roof in neon lights. He was a tremendous success in the area. However, his wife died unexpectedly in 1964, and it crushed his heart. He began to withdraw from the front of house roles that his wife like really created for him, because this is a business like him and her shared together. Yeah. And he kind of just like, he was there, but he like lost interest. He would still walk the floor.
That's more like the attitude of somebody who...
That's how you act.
The love of his life has passed.
Yeah, whenever you lose your wife, you should be devastated. In 1980, his rival across the street, Bill Hara, died, but he was still faced with competition from the suits who ran and expanded Harrah's.
I've heard of Harrah's.
I know, right? Harrah's is like, maybe Harvey's didn't get as big after because of the bombing. They didn't keep expanding and stuff. Because it cost him $18 million.
I don't know. I don't even... Does the bomb go off? I don't even know how this story goes. So.
Well, we'll see.
Okay.
Harvey's was beginning to show its age, but the building remained a multi-million-dollar enterprise. Since there were so many thriving casinos in the vicinity, the FBI was no stranger to having extortionists make bomb threats. At least 2 or 3 times a year, the FBI would be called out for these type of things. Pipe bombs in paper bags left between slot machines. Calls coming in telling security to search the whole place for them to find some silly wires in a trash can or something like that. And the caller would be like, "Did you find it?" And they'd be like, "Yeah, we found your wires." And they're like, "Well, there's 20 more of those, so send me $500,000. And every time these attempts were made, the criminals were caught at
the criminals.
The criminals were caught at the money drop. Because that's the easiest way. Like, oh yeah, here's your money.
It makes sense.
Click. That was my handcuffs.
Put them in the clink.
Clink them.
You're clinked.
Okay. One time, they drove out to the desert. The FBI drove out to the desert, spent 3 days disguised as hunters with camping gear, rifles, dead rabbits, beer, everything, the whole 9 yards, before they saw the guy come to the track looking for the old water heater where the money was supposed to be hidden.
Wow.
And they caught him.
You know what's crazy?
Went deep undercover.
Is that your cat killed a rabbit earlier today.
Oh, she did.
And I took a picture of it.
Yeah.
I can put it on our Insta.
That's my dirt cat.
Norma.
Norma.
Yeah, it's a pretty sad image.
We have a lot of land, and we've got like a creek, and we've got woods, and she likes to bring us presents.
She's a little monster like that.
At least we don't have moles in our yard.
Keep your ankles strong.
Another time the FBI drop was in a trash can down by the shore in Tahoe, miles from everything. At 10 o'clock at night, 2 men came out of the lake in diving gear thinking they were clever, and they were caught just like the people before them.
And you're in a bunch of scuba gear looking like a fool.
I'm picturing,
flippers on.
You know the dudes on Without a Paddle, how they have like the straw?
Yeah,
and
yeah.
they're like hiding out from the people. Like,
Yeah,
I'm
that's-
picturing these idiots being like, they're never gonna know we're down here.
Yeah.
They're just in their little scuba gear, like waiting for their money drop. Like,
I'm imagining them getting like cuffed, but like leaving flippers on. So they're like flap, flop, flop. It's like, put them in the clink.
and I want the cops to be like, where did you see this going?
Yeah.
Like,
Idiots.
and they were caught just like everyone before them. So no matter how complex everyone thinks they are, the point is that the FBI is better.
Yeah.
They catch you, they get you, you're an idiot, basically, because this is like all they train to do.
The G-men.
And this is your first time doing
Yeah.
this. So no matter how complex, yeah, they just always got them. They were always apprehended. In 1974, the main bomb threat specialist for the FBI for this area was Bill Jonke. He was sent to Quantico for extra training where he was taught how to read evidence left after bombs exploded, and he returned to State Line, Nevada area. And then over the years, he had like a few serious calls, but nothing too crazy. So this is the area that Big John was a frequent flyer to.
Okay.
So he believed, like, Jonke is the FBI agent that covered the bomb cases in this area.
Jonky. The bomb man. The Fed.
The bomb jockey. Jockey.
Okay.
Jockey. So Big John really liked this casino area. He believed he was treated like a somebody at Harvey's Wagon Wheel Casino. Blackjack was his game of choice, and pretty soon he was considered a high roller. He would walk around waving stacks of hundreds in the air and bragging about how easy it was to win. He would get benefits like putting him up in the best rooms, while often he was put in room 1017. Like a master suite for like the high rollers.
Yeah, big money, 1017.
Yeah. He was there so often, he started to know the whole place in and out.
Okay.
Gross and him, Harvey Gross, the owner, became close. And Gross even took him on a trip to his lake house in his helicopter. Big John even flew his helicopter. Even though he'd never flown one before, he's just a regular pilot, you know?
He's just a cool guy like that. And he's like, I'll give it a whirl.
Yeah.
This marvel of human engineering.
Yeah, and he learned really quickly. While Big John was living his high roller life, his sons were left to take over the house. They were still kids. Big John had $8,000 of canned food delivered to the house with everything from soup to tuna, and 2,100 pounds. What?
This is just crazy.
Oh,
like
2,100 pounds of beef, 3 whole steers, plus 4 lambs, whole lambs, pork, lobster, ham, and 200 pounds of hot dogs.
ham.
Ham.
Wow, that's insane.
He stacked it in his walk-in freezer and told the boys that they had enough food to keep them going for 3 years, and then he left to go back to Tahoe to keep gambling.
What a strange, what a bizarre
Dude, I'm
move.
having lobster. I'd be like, thanks, Dad. I'm going to stay here with my 4-wheelers and my
tripods.
2,100 pounds of beef. That's
insane.
a lot.
Yeah.
We have a family of 5, and a quarter of a cow that we buy lasts us like a year and a half. And they have 3 whole steers.
Crazy.
I would just be making everything. I would be watching Good Eats and trying all the recipes. Notice they didn't get any chickens.
Yeah. Maybe he didn't like chicken.
So he stacked it all in his walk-in freezer and told the boys they had enough food to keep him going for 3 years and left for Tahoe again to the casino. He said he'd be back in a month or so. A few years later, Big John heard from Harvey's debt collector for the first time. He had some checks that bounced and he owed around like $1,000, which he corrected quickly. A few months later in the same year, his late wife's restaurant, Villa Basque, burned to the ground. The police suspected it wasn't an accident, but John still was paid out the insurance money of $300,000.
Very interesting.
Which he lost in whole at the blackjack tables.
Oh, so blackjack was his game.
It was his game. Now, for the rest of the story, the downfall of his empire, his business, his company, how the bomb was built, and what happened after, you guys are going to have to come back for a part 2.
Part 2.
Part 2.
Part 2 for fromage.
Yeah. Wow, I made it just in an hour. Perfect. Because we're on page 15. This is the longest episode I've ever written. And we still have 20 more pages. And this hour was 15 pages.
Yep, so enjoy, folks.
So anyways, we hope you like our first video. And our first video episode. We're going to get a second camera soon. And we're going to have a part 2 for our first 2-parter.
Yeah. So keep an eye out, folks.
Yep.
Hope you have a wonderful evening.
See you next episode.
See ya.